What happens when one of Hollywood's most admired actresses joins the panel for what begins as a warm interview, only for one unexpected question from Sunny Hostin to shift the entire mood of the conversation? That's the fictional scenario we're exploring today. Make sure to subscribe to the Star Talks and like and comment for more talk show coverage. The audience erupts into applause as Elle Fanning walks onto the stage with a bright smile, waving to the crowd before greeting Whoopi Goldberg, Joy Behar, Sunny Hostin, and Alyssa Farah Griffin. She thanks the audience before taking her seat. Whoopi smiles. Elle, it's wonderful to have you here. Congratulations on all the success you've been having. Elle smiles warmly. Thank you. It's really nice to be here. The audience applauds. Joy Behar laughs. I have to ask, do people still tell you they can't believe how long you've been acting? Elle laughs. Almost every interview. The audience laughs with her. Joy continues. You've practically grown up in front of audiences. I guess I have, Elle replies. When I look back at old photos, it doesn't even feel like the same person. Sunny Hostin joins the conversation. But you've managed to make that transition from child actor to respected adult actress, and that isn't easy. Elle nods appreciatively. I've been lucky to work with people who encouraged me to keep learning. The audience applauds. Alyssa Farah Griffin asks, do you still get nervous before a new project? Elle smiles. Every single time. Really? Alyssa asks. Oh, absolutely. I think nerves remind you that the work matters. Several audience members clap. For the next few minutes, the conversation stays light. They discuss preparing for demanding roles, working with different directors, and how Elle chooses projects that challenge her creatively. Whoopi asks, has your idea of success changed over the years? Elle thinks for a moment. It has. In what way? Whoopi asks. When I was younger, success meant getting the next role. Now it means working with people I respect and feeling proud of the work when it's finished. The audience applauds. Sunny nods thoughtfully. That sounds like a healthier perspective. I hope so, Elle says with a smile. The discussion continues with stories from movie sets and moments that made everyone laugh. Then Sunny glances at her notes. Her expression becomes more serious. Elle, can I ask you something that's a little different? The audience grows noticeably quieter. Elle nods. Of course. Sunny leans forward. You've always carried yourself with kindness in interviews. But sometimes people mistake kindness for avoiding difficult conversations. The audience murmurs softly. Elle listens without interrupting. Sunny continues. Do you think there's ever been pressure on you to stay agreeable because that's what people expect from you? Elle pauses before answering. I think there's pressure on everyone in public life to fit into a certain image. Sunny follows up. And did you ever feel that pressure yourself? Elle nods honestly. Yes. The audience grows even quieter. What did that look like? Whoopi asks. Elle smiles politely. It wasn't anyone telling me what to say. It was more the feeling that people already had an idea of who I was. Joy tilts her head. And you didn't want to disappoint them? Elle thinks carefully. I didn't want to become a version of myself that only existed to meet other people's expectations. The audience applauds. Sunny keeps the discussion moving. But isn't that part of being a public figure? It comes with the job, Elle replies. So how do you deal with it? Elle answers calmly. I remind myself that people see a few interviews and a few public appearances. They don't see an entire life. Several audience members nod. Sunny looks directly at Elle. So would you say the public has the wrong impression of you? Elle smiles. I think the public knows my work better than they know me. The audience applauds. Sunny asks another question. Does that ever frustrate you? Elle takes a slow breath. Only when people confuse assumptions with facts. The room becomes noticeably quieter. Sunny raises an eyebrow. Can you give me an example? Elle hesitates for a brief moment. I've had people tell me what I believe, what I think, or why I made a decision, even though they've never asked me. The audience murmurs. Sunny responds. But doesn't that come with fame? Elle nods. It does. Sunny continues. So why push back against it? Elle's expression remains calm, but her answer comes more firmly than before. Because accepting attention doesn't mean giving up the right to speak for yourself. The audience immediately breaks into applause. Sunny studies her for a moment. So you're saying there's a difference between being in the spotlight and letting other people define who you are? Elle meets Sunny's gaze. Exactly. The audience applauds even louder. Whoopi looks around the table before smiling. I have a feeling we're just getting started. The The cameras capture the reactions from the panel as the audience continues applauding, sensing that the conversation is about to become much more direct in the next segment. The audience is still applauding as the conversation resumes. Whoopi Goldberg smiles, waiting for the room to settle before turning back to Elle Fanning. "You made an interesting point just before the break," Whoopi says. "You said there's a difference between being in the spotlight and letting other people define who you are." Elle nods. "I believe there is." Sunny Hostin leans forward. "I'd like to stay with that idea." Elle smiles politely. "Sure." Sunny continues. "You've worked in Hollywood for most of your life. Fans have watched you grow up, and naturally they feel connected to you. Don't they have the right to form opinions?" "They absolutely do," Elle replies. The audience listens closely. "I've never expected people not to have opinions." Sunny follows up. "So what bothers you?" Elle answers without hesitation. "When opinions become conclusions." The audience murmurs. Joy Behar smiles. "Explain that." Elle folds her hands. "It's one thing for someone to say, 'This is how I see her.' It's another to say, 'This is exactly who she is,' without really knowing me." Several audience members applaud. Sunny nods. "So you're asking for more grace." "I'm asking for curiosity." The audience applauds louder. Whoopi smiles. "That's an interesting way to put it." Elle continues. "I think we'd all understand each other better if we asked more questions before making judgments." Sunny glances at the audience before looking back at Elle. "But some people would say public figures choose this life." "They do," Elle replies. "And with that choice comes public discussion." "I agree." Sunny raises an eyebrow. "So why should celebrities expect privacy when their careers depend on public attention?" The audience grows noticeably quieter. Elle takes a moment before answering. "I don't think privacy and attention cancel each other out." Sunny waits. "I chose to share my work," Elle continues. "I didn't choose for strangers to decide what kind of person I am based on a headline." The audience applauds. Joy nods thoughtfully. "That's a fair distinction." Sunny isn't finished. "But headlines often come from interviews." "They can. So doesn't that mean celebrities also shape those narratives?" Elle smiles. "Of course we do." The audience becomes quiet again. "I've said things that I later wished I'd explained more clearly." Sunny asks, "So you've made mistakes?" Elle laughs softly. "Absolutely." The audience laughs with her. "I don't think anyone gets through years of interviews without saying something they'd phrase differently today." Whoopi smiles. "That's called being human." The audience applauds. Sunny continues. "But do you think celebrities sometimes avoid answering difficult questions?" Elle considers it. "Some probably do." "And you?" "I try not to." Sunny smiles slightly. "Even today?" Elle meets her gaze. "Especially today." The audience applauds. Joy laughs. "That's a confident answer." Elle smiles. "I think honesty is easier than trying to remember a perfect answer." The audience laughs and applauds. Whoopi looks toward Sunny. "I think she's handling herself pretty well." Sunny smiles politely. "I agree. But I have one more question." The audience quiets immediately. Sunny leans in. "You've built a reputation for being kind, thoughtful, and careful with your words. Do you ever worry that people mistake kindness for weakness?" The studio becomes silent. Elle doesn't answer right away. Finally, she says, "I used to." Sunny watches carefully. "What changed?" Elle sits a little straighter. "I realized kindness isn't about avoiding disagreement." The audience listens intently. "It's about how you choose to disagree." Several audience members begin applauding. Sunny follows up. "So if someone challenges you unfairly?" Elle smiles politely. "I'll still answer respectfully." "And if they keep pushing?" Elle's expression remains calm. "I'll still answer respectfully." The audience laughs softly. Sunny smiles. "So you never push back?" Elle pauses. "I do." The room grows quiet again. But pushing back doesn't require raising your voice. The audience applauds loudly. Sunny nods. "So what does it require?" Elle answers confidently. "It requires believing that your perspective deserves to be heard just as much as anyone else's." The applause grows even louder. Whoopi smiles at the audience. "I think that answer landed." Joy looks at Elle with a grin. "I have to admit, I wasn't expecting that." Elle laughs. "I wasn't expecting some of these questions either." The audience bursts into laughter. Even Sunny laughs before nodding respectfully. "Fair enough." As the applause continues, Whoopi glances toward the cameras. "When we come back, We're going to continue this conversation because I think we've only scratched the surface. The audience applauds once more as the show heads into another commercial break, with the panel clearly eager to continue a discussion that has become more candid and engaging than anyone anticipated. As the show returns from the commercial break, the audience welcomes everyone back with enthusiastic applause. The conversation has clearly become the centerpiece of the episode, and the panelists seem just as invested as the viewers. Whoopi Goldberg smiles at Elle Fanning. Welcome back. During the break, everyone here was still talking about what we've been discussing. The audience applauds. Whoopi continues. Elle, you've spoken about kindness, respect, and standing up for yourself. I want to ask you something a little more personal. Elle nods. Of course. When did you realize you didn't have to be everyone's idea of who you should be? The audience grows quiet. Elle takes a thoughtful pause. I don't think there was one specific moment. She smiles softly. I think it happened little by little. Sunny Hostin listens closely. What do you mean? Elle replies, when I was younger, I worried about disappointing people. I wanted everyone to think I was doing everything the right way. Joy Behar nods. I think a lot of people can relate to that. The audience applauds. Elle continues. But eventually I realized something. The room becomes still. No matter how carefully you live your life, someone will always disagree with your choices. Several audience members nod. And that's okay. The audience applauds again. Sunny leans forward. So you stopped caring what people think. Elle shakes her head. No. What changed then? I stopped believing that everyone else's opinion had to become my identity. The audience applauds loudly. Whoopi smiles. That's a powerful distinction. Alyssa Farah Griffin joins in. Do you think younger actors deal with more pressure today than they did 10 years ago? Elle thinks for a moment. I think the pressure is different. In what way? Alyssa asks. Years ago, an interview happened and people moved on. The audience listens carefully. Now every sentence can be clipped, shared, debated, and replayed over and over. Sunny nods. That's true. Elle continues. So I've learned that I can't spend my life trying to predict how every single person might interpret something. The audience applauds. Joy smiles. I'd be exhausted. Everyone laughs. So would I, Elle replies. The laughter settles before Sunny asks another question. Can I challenge something you said earlier? Elle smiles. Please. You've talked about staying respectful no matter what. I have. But there must be times when respect alone isn't enough. The audience becomes quiet. Elle nods slowly. I agree. Sunny continues. So what do you do then? Elle answers calmly. You tell the truth. Sunny asks. Even if it upsets people? Especially then. The audience reacts with surprised applause. Sunny raises an eyebrow. So you're willing to risk criticism? Elle smiles. I think honesty always carries that risk. Whoopi watches the exchange with interest. Joy looks toward Elle. Has there ever been a point where you wanted to answer criticism but decided not to? Elle laughs quietly. Many times. The audience laughs with her. What stopped you? Joy asks. Elle replies. I asked myself whether I wanted understanding or the last word. The audience falls silent. Whoopi smiles knowingly. And, most of the time, they're not the same thing. The audience applauds loudly. Sunny nods. I respect that answer. She pauses before asking one final question. If there's one assumption people make about you that you'd like to challenge, what would it be? The audience grows completely quiet. Elle looks around the table before answering. That being soft-spoken means you're easy to influence. The audience murmurs. She continues. I've heard that before. Sunny asks. And your response? Elle smiles calmly. I don't think strength has to be loud. The audience begins applauding. You can be kind and still have boundaries. The applause grows louder. You can listen carefully and still disagree. More applause fills the studio. And you can respect someone else's opinion without giving up your own. The audience rises to its feet. Whoopi smiles as she looks around the studio. I think that's the strongest thing anyone has said at this table today. Joy nods in agreement. I challenged you because I wanted honest answers. Elle smiles. And I'm glad you asked. Sunny extends her hand across the table. Thank you for answering every question directly. Elle shakes her hand. Thank you for asking them. The audience applauds once more as the cameras slowly pull back, capturing a panel that may not agree on every point, but has reached a place of genuine mutual respect, setting the stage for the final moments of the show. As the closing music begins to play, the audience remains on its feet, applauding as Elle Fanning thanks each member of the panel for the conversation. Whoopi Goldberg smiles. Elle, thank you for being here today. These are the kinds of conversations that remind us why people tune in. Elle nods. Thank you for having me. I appreciate being able to have a real discussion instead of just talking about a movie. The audience applauds. Joy Behar laughs. And I appreciate that you didn't seem too nervous sitting at this table. Elle smiles. I was a little nervous. The audience laughs. Joy grins. You hit it well. Sunny Hostin turns toward Elle. I know I asked some direct questions today. Elle nods. You did. Were any of them unfair? Elle smiles thoughtfully. I don't think they were unfair. They were challenging. Sunny nods. And there's a difference. I think so, Elle replies. Good conversations usually involve questions that make you stop and think. The audience applauds. Whoopi smiles. I couldn't agree more. As the interview wraps up, the panelists stand and thank Elle once again. She waves to the audience before walking off the stage as the applause continues throughout the studio. Once the broadcast ends, the atmosphere backstage remains relaxed. Producers, camera operators, and crew members congratulate the panel on a thoughtful discussion that stayed respectful from beginning to end. Sunny catches up with Elle backstage. She smiles. I hope you knew none of it was personal. Elle laughs. I did. I asked those questions because viewers are thinking them. And I answered because viewers deserve honesty. The two smile before shaking hands. Later that afternoon, clips from the fictional interview begin circulating across social media. One clip featuring Elle's comment, "Kindness isn't about avoiding disagreement," quickly becomes the most shared moment from the episode. Another widely shared clip highlights her statement, "You can respect someone else's opinion without giving up your own." Viewers begin posting their reactions. Some praise Elle for staying calm under pressure while answering every question without becoming defensive. Others compliment Sunny for asking thoughtful questions that encouraged a meaningful discussion instead of creating unnecessary conflict. Many viewers describe the fictional interview as one of the most balanced conversations they've seen on a daytime talk show, with both sides listening as much as they spoke. Entertainment commentators discussed the episode throughout the day, pointing to the exchange between Elle and Sunny as the moment that defined the interview. Rather than focusing on who won the discussion, much of the conversation centers on the value of respectful disagreement. By the following morning, fans are still sharing their favorite moments online. Some say Elle's calm confidence stood out the most. Others believe Sunny asked exactly the questions the audience wanted answered. Regardless of opinion, viewers largely agree that the discussion remained civil, honest, and engaging from beginning to end. Back at the studio, members of the production team reflect on the episode, pleased that a conversation built around difficult questions and thoughtful answers resonated with so many viewers. As this story comes to a close, one message remains. The strongest conversations aren't always the loudest. They're the ones where people are willing to listen, respond honestly, and respect different perspectives. If you enjoyed this talk show story, share your opinion in the comments and subscribe to the Star Talks for more talk show stories. We'd love to know. Do you think Elle handled Sunny's toughest questions the right way, and which moment stood out to you the most?